Now, once you get an appointment, you go in and you give a listing presentation. You give a listing presentation and you hope to get the listing at a good price. And then you want to share it with the investors that you know, because investors will close much faster than anybody else on a deal. That, you know, they usually close within a week to sometimes 30 days, but it's usually much faster than a regular traditional property. Also, when you list it at a correct price, it's going to sell whether you want it to or not. Now, the for sale by owners, this is for licensed agents and this is also for investors. When you are driving by and you see properties that say, you know, for sale by owner, the owner is selling it. Now, in some areas, a lot of times when you see the for sale by owner, it's an investor that's selling the property. You can still speak to them as an agent and try to get them to work with you on listing the property. Or you can just speak to them and see if the house is a good fit for your cash buyers. So a for sale by owner, I would encourage you to just take the number down, pull over to the side and call them right then and there. Don't wait. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to call them, you know, on Tuesday at 3 o'clock because that's on my schedule to make my phone calls. Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Last week, I was working a specific neighborhood and this particular lady on the block, I was just about to get this deal and found out that my son beat me to the deal because he called her immediately and I was waiting. So for sale by owners, and it's a property that he's gonna fix and flip it. So don't be scared as an investor to call the for sale by owners. Just pull over to the side when you see their phone number and their property is for sale. If it is an investor, you talk to them and ask them, well, you know, when can I see this property? And then ask them, what kinds of properties do you look for? Do you mind if I add you to my buyers list? And now when you get listings from the agent that got all those expireds, you now can show it to your cash buyers because cash buyers look for different things. Some people look for properties they're going to pay cash for and hold. Some people look for properties they're going to pay cash for, fix it up themselves and hold. And I'm telling you, with the people that come to the Yellow Letter Mentoring, I have had all types of people. People that have lots of cash and they can do the rehab with their own money, and then some people have to get loans for it. Your goal, though, is to get the properties in your, you know, get them in contract so that you can wholesale them to somebody else. So if a sale by owner, you would call them and say, hi, are you the person with the property that's for sale? And you can tell them the address and then wait for them to answer. And when they do say, well, I'm actually sitting right in front of the house, and can you tell me a little bit more about it? And then you should have your worksheet where you can put in the bedrooms, the bathrooms. We went over this script before, so I'm not going to go over it in so much detail, but you should walk around with your scripts. If you're somebody that's so techie that you can have your scripts on your phone, I literally just write mine on paper so I can pull over and write it on paper. I'm pretty much old school when it comes to that. I make my notes right on it. Some people like CRMs where they're very, like, you know, techie and organized. Do whatever works for you. But for the for sale by owner, you want to fill in that information because, again, the first call is to collect information. You're not analyzing the deal. You're not telling them why you want the deal. You're learning to collect information. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How long have you been trying to sell it? What work does it still need? How much did you pay for it? And some people don't want to tell you that, but I usually let them know it's public record and it's not going to affect what I offer you, but I just needed to know. How long have you had the property? You know, if you were going to keep the property, what do you like about it? What would you need to still fix if you were going to keep the property? And if you were going to sell the property, what kind of price are you looking for? And no matter what they say, even if it's the number that I wanted them to say, I always ask, can you do better than that? No matter what they say, can you do better than that? You'd be surprised. Sometimes people will go, sometimes even 20, 30,000 lower. Sometimes they'll go a couple of thousand lower, and sometimes they won't budge at all. But practice saying, can you do better than that? And then you let them know, because sometimes people say, well, what are you going to pay me for the house? I'd love to give you the best possible offer. I believe in making it a win-win situation, but I cannot give you the best offer until I see the property. I'm available to look at homes this week on Wednesday between 4 and 6, or Saturday morning between 11 and 1, which works better for you. And I always give people an option to choose. And sometimes they say, well, neither one of those work. I really was hoping you know, you're right in front of the door. Can you come in now? Why not? You know, or sometimes I'll say, well, I'm right outside the door now. Can I come in now? And then you see the property. So now that's 2 touches the person has from you. They have the touch of speaking to you on the phone, and now you're in front of the home. Don't take the appointment if you're not prepared and you really don't know that neighborhood really well, because you have to be prepared. One of the things I like to do is once somebody tells me a property, especially the people I'm mentoring, they'll text me sometimes and say, well, Wendy, I have the seller and da-da-da-da-da. And I say, well, remember the format. You got to tell me how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what's the address, where is it located? You know, give me some basic information. So you have to learn to collect basic information. The property address is very, very important, because you can go online. You can even go on Zillow and get a guesstimate of what the property is worth. It's not, you know, something that you have to say is written in stone, but it is a guesstimate, which means it gives you a reference point. It is the place that gives you the real numbers will be when you appraise it, or if you have an appraiser on your team, somebody that knows how to analyze properties. But you have to master that. So as soon as they give you the address, you go look on Zillow, Redfin. There's so many platforms right now online where you put in the property address and it tells you. It will even tell you when the property was last sold and what it was sold for. When you have that information, now you know what you can go offer the seller. You know what you can go offer them. So if you have a smartphone, have some of these apps on your phone so that when you get to the for sale by owner and you're outside their door, tell them to give you 5 minutes so you can see what the property is worth. And then you have to have your most allowable offer, the number that will make sense for you to get that deal. So if a for sale by owner is asking $150,000 and you know it's only worth, you know, $80,000, don't go offer them the $150,000 unless you're doing creative financing, or the seller is holding a note, or you're doing a master lease. But it's not a good fit for you to take it and wholesale it to somebody else. You have to get it at a good price point. So you always want to know what it's worth in the condition it's in. Then you want to know what it would take to repair it. You got to get to the point where you know how much kitchens go for in your area, how much a bathroom can be done in your area, how much is the siding, how much is the roof. These are standard things a real estate investor has to know. And if you don't, and you don't want to, you know, really focus on that part, you definitely want to have a contractor on your team that you can call right away and say, listen, the property's at this address, can you look it up and tell me like what kind of repairs, what it would cost me to do the repairs. However, the more of this you can do yourself, the quicker and the better your business will grow. And so again, you want to know what you will offer them. When you go into the property, you want to look at the property, look at the roof, look for leaks, look for, the plumbing, look at the electricity, look for the things that are going to cost you the most money to repair. Cosmetic stuff like painting is not that dramatic, but if you turn around and you find out that the whole place has major plumbing issue, that can cost you a lot of money, or that the whole roof is messed up but you didn't see it, that can really put into the budget of what you were expecting to make if you were to fix and flip it yourself. So when you go in again, you have a number in your head that you will not go beyond that number to offer the seller. And you want them to speak, because your goal is to figure out, what do they want the money for? Sometimes you can offer a seller. One of my students had a deal and she couldn't put it together because the owner said a lot of people came to him because the area he's in, there's a lot of abandoned properties. So he's on that, the list source gives his address out a lot of the time for people that are looking for a list in that area. But he said most people, when he told them that he couldn't move right then and there, they forget about it. And I was able to show her how to close the deal, hold some of the money that he's meant to get until he moves out. So now she got the deal at a discounted price, and the house is pretty decent. She doesn't have to do a lot of work. So there's always options, but you have to get all the information. And your goal is you're always collecting information on the first conversation. The second conversation is you should have had an appointment to go look at the property. And that's why I say at first you want to learn to invest in a neighborhood you can either walk to, drive to, and then other neighborhoods you can partner up with professionals in those neighborhoods. But when you're starting out, you want to start in an area that you can go learn to analyze the deal yourself, okay? I have some students that make a lot of money, but they have no car. So they'll Uber to their appointment, or they just walk to look at the properties. And so now they find houses on the way. There's no excuse for not doing this stuff the way we're sharing it for you to do it. And that is the second touch. You're in the house, looking at the house, gathering information, and you can then give them an offer because you've done your homework already. Now, if they don't take your offer, don't just forget about them and say, you know what, I'm done. They didn't want my offer, because that was only your second touch. Most people lose deals because they don't follow up. And don't take it personal with people. When you learn to get really thick skin in real estate and not get offended or upset, no matter what comes at you, no matter what they say, you will have more success in the industry. So don't feel like, oh, they didn't list with me or they didn't give me that deal, I'm moving on. Keep them in your follow-up pile. And follow-up is where your finances are. You have to learn to have strong follow-up. The greatest follow-up you can do is call the person back and say, you know what, hi, this is Wendy. I was at your house last week, and I said I would follow up with you, so I'm just checking in. And then you let them speak. Don't be like, oh, did you decide to sell? Because sometimes something could have changed for them. So keep your conversation shorter and let them do most of the talking. So that is on the for sale by owner. Hi, are you the person who has the property for sale? Are you the owner? And I also will ask them, is there anybody else that needs to make a decision on you selling this home, because sometimes it's a husband and wife, and one of them may be at work, and then the other one says, well, I can meet you, but I still need to speak to my spouse before we make a decision. So to save myself the headache, I ask them, when will you both be home? And then I try to make the appointment at that time. So you also want to ask them, how long have you been selling the house? Do you have any offers yet? How long have you owned the property? What kind of work have you done on the property? Why are you selling it now? And then let them tell you. And try to ask that question 2 different times, 2 different ways, because sometimes it'll really tell you if the person's telling you the truth. And so you want to ask them, why are you selling it now? Then you can ask again, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? What is it that you liked about the neighborhood? And what is it that you would do if you were to keep the property now? And again, why are you selling the property now at this point, as opposed to last month or 6 months from now? And then listen for their answer, because it's going to tell you how motivated they are. Okay? So door knocking and, the expireds and the Fsbos are very much the same. One, you're letting them know they showed up as an expired. The second, you're letting them know that you've seen the houses for sale, and you want to know, like, why, with the expireds, why didn't it sell? And why is it off the market now? And if they blame it on the realtor, you don't get caught up in that. You just, continue to remain professional, and your goal is to get an appointment so you can go do a listing presentation. And sometimes they'll say, well, why don't you just bring me a buyer? I would love to do that, sir or ma'am, but I really need to come in and see the property first. I don't want to waste your time and bring people that I think may be interested in your home because they qualify for it. I'd rather make sure that I am, getting you the right qualified buyers for your particular house. So I really need to see the property first. Which day works better for you? I can come over tomorrow between 7 and 8, or I can come Saturday morning between 11 and 3. And you let them choose. The Fsbos, the same thing. Either you make an appointment or you go right then and there. For door knocking, this is another great way to get your business up. When I have new students, I always make them go door knocking. Well, I don't make them, but I suggest they do that, because the quicker they go door knocking, get to know their zip code, get familiar in their zip code, the faster they will get deals done in their zip code. And so one of the things that I tell them to do is, if you are an investor, make a flyer of a property that one of your investor friends has sold. That's why it's great to be connected with an investment group or family. If you're an agent, find out what homes were sold by your company and make a flyer. And then you go and you share that flyer. Hi, we just sold this home in the neighborhood and we're looking for other homes. Or hi, we have this house we're selling in the neighborhood and we're looking for buyers. Do you know anybody you would love to make a neighbor? If you are talking to for sale by owners, it's good to tell them, the people that you have already helped in the neighborhood. And if you have a testimonial, that always helps as well. The door knocking, you want to give them a flyer and you want to say to them, hi, I'm your local real estate expert, and that could be an agent. When you're a licensed agent, you have to tell people you're a licensed agent. If you're an investor, you can just say, I'm your local real estate investor. I'm the expert of the area. They don't know you started 2 hours ago. They don't know if you've been in the industry 50 years already. So you tell them you're the expert of the area, and you just let them know that you're sharing information, but you do have somebody, or you're looking for a house in the area. Do they know anybody that has a house that needs to be sold? in the area, like you're looking to buy something right away, and you have cash to buy something right away, and I usually share who I want to buy it for. I have this family, the mother's name is Mary, and she has 5 kids, and they really want to be in this neighborhood. Do you know anybody? And some people will say, well, I'm thinking about selling, or my neighbor down the street has a house for sale, but they've got it listed with an agent. So I will still call those people to see, is it a good property that I can wholesale? Is it a good property that I can share, with my group of investors? And so when you're door knocking, you ring the doorbell and you step back so they can see you. And make sure you look professional. Don't have on, crazy jewelry, and don't have on like really tight-fitting stuff. Sometimes elder women don't want their husbands talking to women with very form-fitted clothing. You don't have to look like a nun, but just be aware that your goal is to make sure that these people that you're knocking on their door feel comfortable with you. If you do not make people connect with you and feel comfortable by building rapport, they will not want to do business with you. So I say it takes a lot of humility to just transform yourself so that you could be more helpful to your sellers and buyers. So you want to make sure you build rapport. And so one of the best ways to build rapport is to give somebody a compliment. Don't be fake about it. If you like their hair, say, wow, I love your hair. If you like their shirt, wow, I really love that shirt. Where did you get it? I'd love to get one of those shirts for my husband. Or, my son would look so nice in that shirt. Or I love that dress. Do you believe in sharing where you got the dress from? Because I would love to get that for my daughter. Just build rapport. If their kids go to a school that wow, my kids went to that same school. You want to connect and show what you have in common. When I find people that say they're from New York and I'm in Atlanta, I usually will say, what part of New York? And then we share stories. If I'm in New York and somebody's from Georgia, I say, wow, what part of Georgia? Then we share stories. So you're always looking for the commonalities, and then you want to start talking about the real estate. So you knock on the door. You're really looking for a deal, so you just let them know you're sharing information. And this really works, but you got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. You got to make sure that you follow up with these people. I'm giving you the dialogue for the first day, the second day, but you follow up. And following up, you just share information with them. You let them know when another property sold. You let them know when you get other deals. You go back now and then and knock on their door. And you say, I was in the neighborhood and I said, let me check in on you. And then you'll start hearing, well, my neighbor's in foreclosure. Or, this person's house I noticed they're not there anymore. I think they've moved out. This person's house is vacant. This person, they start telling you all this stuff. And now you have more leads, but you've got to be consistent about going to the same neighborhoods more than one time. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you want the exact scripts that I use for expired Fsbos and door knocking, send me a message at the Yellow Letter Mentoring Facebook page. You got to like the page first. Send me a message there, and I will send you the scripts to your email. Okay, I will email you the scripts. And for those that know me and you have my email already, feel free to send me an email, but you'll get it quicker if you go to the Yellow Letter Mentoring on Facebook, like the page, and then just, tell me which one of the 3 scripts you want, or if you want all 3, I will send them to you. I went over a lot of the basics of door knocking, Fsbos, and expireds. And again, the concept is you're collecting information. You want to analyze the deal. You want to know what makes sense for you. Are you a person, an investor that wants to make $5,000 a deal? or 10,000 or 20,000. So if you know what you want to make from wholesaling a deal, you got to leave room enough for the person, the cash buyer that's getting the property, to have room enough to fix it up and either rent it out or sell it. Okay, so then you backtrack, and that will tell you what's the most you can offer your seller. We go over that a lot in the Yellow Letter Mentoring program, but that's basically how to figure out your numbers. My name is Wendy Lovejoy. If you got anything out of this training, I would say go over to the yellowlettermentoring.com website and see if there's a program on there that you feel like might be helpful for you. Maybe you want a copy of the scripts, because we have a book of scripts for licensed agents and we have a book of scripts for investors, and it's every script you can think of. And then I also role play with some of the people that get the scripts. If you're in the Yellow Letter Mentoring program, next Tuesday we have a Q&A, and I like to do it in groups of 5 so that people can make sure they get their questions answered. And I find that when people are in a little bit more of an intimate space, they feel more comfortable about asking their questions. So look out and see which group of 5 you fit into, and I will see you in the Yellow Letter Mentoring Facebook page, the website, in the program, or you can just go ahead and send me a message and I'll be happy to send you the scripts. But go out and do the stuff. Don't take it for granted or take in the information and do nothing with it. It only works if you work it. It really works when you become consistent. And I love when I get messages from the new students that say, oh my God, I got my first phone call, or somebody called me back and I spoke to them and I said what you said and it felt okay to do it, and then you hear, oh, I got my first deal. I just closed my first deal. But none of that happens if you don't do the activities that we're sharing, okay? So go ahead and make your business very, very professionally successful with systems, programs, scripts, and dialogues. Implement these scripts and dialogues, and go door knocking. Call some for sale by owners and ask a real estate agent if they'll work the expireds with you, and if they find a good deal, you will pay cash for it. That will motivate them to show you all the stuff that they have. Talk to you soon, everybody. Be blessed. Bye.